Krishna. Welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa welcoming you all to today's session. Today we are going to start the fifth section and the last section of the Bhakti Sutra. So before we start, I'll just say the prayer. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva, Maheshwara, Guru
Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So good, so we have come so far. Final section. All by Radharani's grace, we are here. So let's continue. Let's try to be with the satsang as regular as possible, because hardly I think we will try to wrap it up in the next 4 sessions, if possible, maximum 5. And after that, you are free. So let us do Shloka 67. Bhaktā ekāntino.
Bhaktā
ekāntino.
ekāntino
Mukhyāḥ.
mukhyāḥ.
Okay, let us see what this means. This means devotees whose sole single goal is the Lord Himself, and whose single-pointed devotion towards the Lord is just for the sake of devotion. They are the best devotees. Mukhyāḥ means primary, so they are the primary devotees, or we can also say they are the main devotees of God. Now, Narad Ji already described Ananya Bhakti. Krishna has also spoken about Ananya Bhakti in the past, right? Here Narad Ji is reiterating the fact that devotees with such Ananya Bhakti, not just Ananya Bhakti. No, Narad Ji is adding one more twist to it, because Krishna had said Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. Ye Jana Paripasite. So Krishna was talking about one-pointed and single-minded focus on Krishna. Narad Ji is adding another element to that. Narad Ji is saying that devotion also has to be just for the sake of devotion. So have a single-pointed focus on Krishna, but then the reason for that should be just devotion. There is no other reason. Like Krishna has already said that we can progress on the path of Bhakti Yoga by focusing on the form of Krishna. You remember all that. So there is a nirguna aspect, there is an aspect of God with the form. And Krishna already said that focus on the form of Krishna. And see, the point is, if you talk about form, because in those days when Krishna was an avatar, when we had the Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata, we didn't have DSLRs and we didn't have Google Cloud or AWS. So there is no real picture of Krishna which has been stored or which has been conveyed. So what happens is everybody uses their imagination. So that is why if you say Krishna, even in today you go search online for picture of Krishna, you will find like 1,000 different variations. All artistic freedom, right? people will go and based on their own imagination. Krishna doesn't mind any of that. But what the point we are coming to is, in general, the acharyas, they advise that to try to pick one or maybe maximum 2 out of whichever appeals to you. There is no, Narad Ji never says this is my version and you should, but he's saying whatever appeals to you. But try to pick 1 or 2 and then focus on that. It is better than having 100 different, varieties, and because you're how will you, like for example, if you say I am devoted to my mother, the picture of your mother comes to your mind, right? Do you get the picture of 1,000 different women in your mind? No. How can you focus on one if there is a picture of 1,000 in your mind? This is not a limitation of God. God is infinite. He has got infinite forms. But the limitation is in our mind. So we shouldn't make it like a, vintage collection kind of thing where, I have 100 cars, I have 100 this thing, I have 10,000 stamps. That mindset shouldn't come when we are trying to approach Ananya Bhakti to God. So this is a tip. Take it. See, it will help you if you try to follow it. So even for me, like many times, there is one form that I try to keep in my mind. And that helps me. So whenever we say Narayana, there has to be something consistent. That way your focus is consistent. That way you are able to have Ananya Chintan. So it's a tip by Krishna. Mukundananda actually jokes. One of his lectures I had attended a while ago. And there was a slightly different topic, but the concept was the same. And Mukundananda said, I went to this devotee's house and he had like 50 different idols and pictures, and I'm like, how are you able to do justice to any of them? Like, because you have like 50. And I saw how he was doing a puja. He was just throwing flowers at that whole lot of 50. So one murti had a flower in the eyes, one murti is having flower in the ears, one murti is just waiting ki flower mera number kab aayega, when I will get a flower. So he jokes about all this, and he says that it's all okay for that is fine. There is no law or rule that says you should not have more than one image or one idol. But when you are practicing Ananya Bhakti, pick one that you have to keep in your mind. It's a very practical advice. Now, there is a very profound statement made by Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahaha shraddhayatma priya satam bhaktihe punati mananishta swapakan api sambhavat. Only by practicing unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me can one obtain me. I am naturally dear to my devotees, who take me as the only goal of their loving service. By engaging in such pure devotional service, even the dog eaters can purify themselves from the contamination of their low birth. This is yet another assurance given by Krishna. Krishna has given so many assurances, very heartening. So this is one other assurance where he says, even unfortunate people who are born in families that are inherently having tamasic gunas, like dog eaters is the example. So we spoke about in Bhagavad Gita 400,000 levels of human consciousness. So out of those 400,000 levels of consciousness, the lowest of low is considered to be Chandals, the dog eaters. So Krishna says, even if you are at that level, even from there, you can purify and get rid of your bondages if you just practice, if you can practice Ananya Bhakti. Very assuring, right? So all he says is, what is the only thing Krishna is expecting in this Shloka at least? Krishna says, Mananishta, means make me, the Krishna, as the only goal. Shraddhaya, with full faith. And ekaya, one-pointed, and without any selfish motivation. Three simple requirements, Krishna says, if you can practice, then no matter where you are born, no matter what your current situation is, you can still get a liberation, is the whole thing. See, Krishna is the only goal we understand. Faith is something that we have to develop, Shraddhaya. And one-pointed, ekaya, is where we need to pick a form and focus on that form. Okay, I hope this all makes sense. Just a quick, interesting tip, or not tip, quick, interesting fact I want to tell you. It's it's not funny, I just find it very amazing that this is, if it happens once, we can say it's coincidence, but it's happened many times. Like last night, again, midnight, I was not well. And this morning also, I was not well. I think I picked up some virus from the gym. and it was really, really messing me up, and so, but somehow right around the time when I'm supposed to take the class, Krishna says, no excuse. I'll take away all this sickness business. Go and sit and do your stuff, So I really feel like, there is something going on. I was telling Kalpana also the same thing. I was so miserable. I couldn't breathe, so I had to take some extra stuff and all. And then I was telling her, I don't know, magically it just goes, I just feel like he's watching all of us. All he's expecting is sincerity, and he says, I'll take care of the rest. Hare Krishna. So let's go to the next Shloka, Shloka 68.
The true love towards God, makes you to. That's the one. I also feel it. Even though if I'm sick, if I want to do something, good means, I don't know, bad the energies comes. It'll happen. I understand.
Yes, I know.
It's
In fact,
Bhagavan Kripa is always be there to full. Thank you.
No, totally. In fact, last time Kalpana was teasing me. She was like, what? Before the session, you were like, and in the session, somebody was shouting energetically, She was like, what? Kya ho raha hai? So let's go to Shloka 68.
Yeah.
Kantavarodha Romancha Shruddhihi
रोमांच श्रुतिः
Parasparam
परस्परं
Lapmanaha
लप्मानाः
Pavayanti
पावयन्ति
Kulani
कुलानि
Prithvim cha.
पृथिवीं च.
So the translation is choked with emotion, having goosebumps and tears flowing down their cheeks, they discuss God's glories with each other and sanctify their family and also the earth. Who is they here? It is the people Narad Ji just spoke about in the previous Shloka. The people who can have Ananya Chintan and who can be one-pointed devotion with no selfish motives. Those kind of people, they are the pure devotees. Now here he is explaining that these kind of devotees, these are some of the emotions they go through, and such devotees, they sanctify not just their family, but they sanctify the whole earth. So such exclusive devotees, they are always busy discussing the pastimes and glories of God. That was the reason we create these satsang groups. Maybe someday everybody will understand. But the reason for this satsang is that, so that everybody is busy chatting with each other about the glories and pastimes of the Lord. That should be the mahol. That should be the environment that our satsang helps create. So, the symptoms that Narad Ji says, actually in the scriptures, they have documented those symptoms of such high level of devotion. The symptoms are called as Ashta Satvik Bhavas. So these are the bhavas that such devotees, so when you are progressing on the path to bhakti, when you are nearing this Siddha Bhakti stage, you will go through some of these Ashta Satvik bhavas. So sometimes you may feel what is going on, right? But those are all indications that you are on the path. So what are those Ashta Satvik bhavas? First is Stambha. Stambha means you become motionless like a pillar, where your body just becomes totally motionless because of that strong spiritual emotion. Second is Sweda. It is profuse sweating. Basically, you are overwhelmed by spiritual emotions and the body is responding by producing a lot of sweat. Third is Romancha. Romancha is also known as these goosebumps, we say. So you will feel that goosebumps in your body. Fourth is Swarabhanga. Swarabhanga is choking of your voice. where you're not able to talk. I mean, that I think some of us have already experienced, especially when we are talking about some experience that we have had about God. Lakshmi ji had that instance where she was trying to explain about her experience and she felt the choking. It has happened to me. I think it has happened to some of you. So that is one of the common symptoms. Then fifth is Vepatu, means trembling or shaking of the body. Sixth is Vaivarnya. That basically means the facial complexion changes. Like physically you will feel like your complexion is changing when you are in that mode of bhava. And 7 is Ashru, where you can't explain but you are just having tears in your eyes. That also I think some of us have experienced. And 8th is Pralaya. That is a state of unconsciousness or deep absorption, where you become completely immersed in the divine. You are not even aware of what's going on around you. You don't know your physical body, your surroundings. You're not aware of any of that. So usually one or few of these bhavas, they are expected to happen in all devotees who are succeeding on the path of Bhakti Yoga. And it is said that only Radharani has had all 8 simultaneously happening. Like she is supposed to be the only one, but she is the epitome of divine love. So they say that Radharani is the only entity where all these 8 have been present at the same time. As you know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is considered an avatar of Krishna and Radha together, he was also known to have experienced all of these bhavas simultaneously because he is a direct incarnation of Radharani. And these bhavas appear only in elevated souls. So you have to really be progressing on the path of bhakti and then you can experience all of this. So there is a similar message in the Srimad Bhagavatam that says, a devotee whose speech is sometimes choked up, whose heart melts, who cries continuously, and who sometimes laughs, sometimes he feels ashamed, sometimes he cries out loudly, sometimes he is dancing. It says, if these are all happening out of devotion and not out of madness, if they're all happening out of devotion, then they say that is a sign of real elevated devotion. And such a person who has elevated themselves so much in devotion, they sanctify every place that they visit, they sanctify every person that they come in contact with. Now again, my favorite, Ramcharitmanas, I tried to find something from there that is relevant. So in there is a sage, his name was Sutikshan, he is in Ramayana, and he's a big devotee of Lord Rama. And somebody tells him Rama is coming and he's coming to meet and he's going to meet you also. And hearing that, I mean, he goes into a trance kind of, he's like, he doesn't know how to handle that because that is his kind of devta, his dev, his God is coming. So in the Ramcharitmanas, in the Aranya Kand, it is documented. Nirbar prem magan muni gyani कहीं न जाई सो दशा भवानी दिसी अरु विदिसी पंत नहीं सूजा को मैं चलेऊ कहाँ नहीं बूझा. The sage, completely absorbed in selfless love, is beyond the reach of worldly wisdom. That state cannot be described. So, Bhavani means it's a name for goddess Parvati. The sage cannot discern any direction or path. He asks, where should I go? I cannot understand. Kabahunk firi पाछे पुनि जाई कबहुंक नृत्य करई गुण गाई अबिरल प्रेम भगति मुनि पाई प्रभु देखे तरु ओट लुकाई. Sometimes he moves forward and then he turns back again. Sometimes he dances, sometimes he's singing, sometimes he's praising the Lord. I mean, this sage has already attained unwavering devotion and love for the God, and he just seeks to see the Lord now. And then अतिशय प्रीति देखे रघुबीरा प्रगटे हृदयम हरन भवबीरा मुनि मग माज अचल होई बैसा पुलक शरीर पनस फल जैसा. Witnessing this sage's immense love, Lord Rama, the destroyer of worldly fears, he appears in the sage's heart. The sage then sits still in the middle of the path. His body is trembling like a ripe fruit. तब रघुनाथ निकट चली आए, देखी दशा निज जन्म निभाए, मुनि राम बहु भांति जगावा, जाग न ध्यान जनित सुख पावा. Lord Rama approaches the sage and seeing his condition, he is very pleased. Now Lord Rama tries to awaken the sage in various ways, but the sage is deeply absorbed in meditation. So absorbed that he doesn't want to wake up from that state. Bapu roop tab Ram durava, hrudayam chaturbhuj roop dekhava. Muni akulai uta tab kaise, bikalheen mani fani bar jaise. Then the Lord Rama stands at a distance and then he assumes a human form while revealing his four-armed form within the sage's heart. So it's kind of like a Vishwarupa Darshanam. He's now giving that Rupa to the sage. Now that kind of intense longing the sage had leads him to this vision of Lord Rama. See, Lord Rama on this planet, on the earthly planet also, he was so touched and so moved by this kind of devotion that he gave him this Vishwarupa Darshanam. Right there. That is the power. That is the power of sincere selfless love. So I discussed earlier, divine love is very potent. It's like a 10,000 volt electricity. I want to talk about a quick example. Of course, this is not really still anywhere close to God's Siddha Bhakti, of course. So recently, last week, I had this, we call it Shaktipat, where Shaktipat basically is when, it's a tradition. The belief is the teacher will pass on the energy. So I have been practicing Kriya Yoga for a while, but then if I have to officially advance in Kriya Yoga, the belief is it has to come from some guru. They have to, because it has passed on from, starting from Babaji. Babaji gave it to his first disciple, he passed it on to his disciple, so on and so forth. The belief is that it always comes, the teacher has to do. So they have a certain protocol there. I don't know because I'm not a teacher of Kriya Yoga. I'm a student there. But my teacher, she kind of, when she did the Shaktipat on me, like that thing, I could feel the energy. And my whole head felt like, there was like some 1000 volt electricity going on. And I even had a headache. I couldn't really handle that. Yeah, whatever, I can't explain that, but I can tell you that even that is a force and that is why they tell us to first be disciplined. They tell us to first follow some protocols, and they tell us to practice for some time, and then they give the Shaktipat. Because I know that if the Shaktipat happens just if I'm not having good habits and all of that, then that energy would probably have been harmful. And so even I experienced something, some form of that. And so I can only imagine what Siddha Bhakti would be, which is like 10,000 times stronger. And we have to prepare ourselves. It's very, very important, And that is why, there is so much emphasis Shri Krishna also gives in the Bhagavad Gita about purification and all of that, because it's very, very important. Because they are saying, Krishna has also said that even people who are yogis, it's not easy for them to handle that force. So we discussed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is documented. In spite of being a avatar, sometimes he couldn't also handle that because he was in the form of human form. Although he was an avatar, he was still having that human body, so it had its limitations. And he couldn't even handle that. And so it's that powerful. So see, it's like this. Just imagine that, there's a pressure cooker. Okay. And the divine love is like the pressure of the steam inside. Everybody knows what a pressure cooker is. We all know how much pressure builds up inside the steam cooker. Now, if the cooker is made the right way, if it is good quality cooker, then it will have vents. And it will know exactly how much steam to leak or release at what time. That way, your food gets cooked and everything happens constructively. But if the cooker is not of good quality, it doesn't know how to release the steam here and there, the whole cooker will explode. And there's nothing constructive that's going to happen. The same steam, the same food, the same fire. But if the cooker's quality is not good, it's going to result in destruction. If the cooker's quality is good, it's going to result in something constructive. So we are like that cooker. And the divine bhakti is like that steam. And if we are of good quality, we are practicing all the good habits, discipline, bhakti, purity, all of that, then that intense pressure that builds up, it will come out as this ashtabhavas, ashtasatvik bhavas. So they are like those steam that gets released, CT. They get released. But otherwise, what will happen? Instead of ashtabhavas, it is all going to become mental case. We can't handle it. Why talk about Siddha Bhakti? Even in normal energy, like Kalpana ji has been following pranic healing for a long time. Even in pranic healing, I have also done pranic healing. I am also certified there as a healer. And our teachers have shown us examples of people who couldn't handle even that, and they have gone mad and all. It's not the fault of the energy. It is the fault of the container, which did not prepare itself for that energy. So bhakti is always divine. The intent is always good. So we have to always purify ourselves. So that is why even Patanjali, he had this Ashtanga Yoga. And he starts with Yama, Niyama. Dipali ji must know this, because asana comes much later in Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. Initially, he talks about all purifications. That is the reason. But nowadays, nobody cares about all of that. People have hot yoga and God knows what all yoga. You just, from directly go and do something. It's all harmful. So keep that in mind. Doesn't matter if it is Ashtanga Yoga or Pranayama or if it is Siddha Bhakti. They are all generating a lot of energy. And for any of these practices, discipline and purification is a prerequisite. If you do it, the outcome will always be positive. If you are not careful, if you are careless, like for example, some people, they will go do all bad habits and directly they will say, oh, that's fine. I will go do some yoga. But that's not going to be beneficial. That's the practical advice.
Can I ask you a question here?
Who's this?
It's me, Deepan.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I am understanding this energy that you're talking, but sometimes we've observed in these temples or that excess energy makes you go out of control and you're not in control of yourself. Is it the same thing as ते आपल्याकडे म्हणतात ना अंगात येतं वगैरे? Is it that no, this is different? You get it by yourself.
Yes, that is different. That is very different. That is partly delusional and partly mental cases. Because there you are talking about somebody coming into you. This is not what we are talking about. Here we are talking about we reaching towards God and getting the grace of God. So it is a very methodical approach where we gradually build ourselves up to receive that. The other things that we see, they are all something else. It's not bhakti. I mean, I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but this is what has been explained by a lot of acharyas and gurus, including Swami Mukund. In fact, Swami Mukundananda gives this very example in some of his lectures where he says, that is not what is Siddha Bhakti. So because it goes and then it goes away, right? It is there for maybe half an hour or something, and then it goes away, and then they are a normal person again, right? But that is not the definition of Siddha Bhakti. As Narad Ji has already explained in the Bhakti Sutra. Once you get that Siddha Bhakti, it is permanent. Once you reach that stage, it is permanent. It is eternal. So can we go to the next? So that is why, even, I don't know if you have done it, but serious yoga when you practice, there are even energy, Hatha Yoga, for example, if you practice, they ask you to first do Nadi Shodhana, purification of Nadis. So you take any path of serious yoga, if you are doing serious practices, there is always an element of purification. The same holds true for Bhakti Yoga. If you are progressing on Bhakti Yoga, that purification is very, very important. So let's go to the next Shloka, 69. Tirti kurvanti,
Tirti kuruvanti.
tirtani,
Tirthani.
Tirthani.
sukarmi kurvanti,
Sukarmi kuruvanti.
karmani,
Karmani.
Karmani.
sat shastri kurvanti,
Sastri kuruvanti.
shastrani.
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 The translation is, these great illumined souls, the Bhakti Yogis, they sanctify the places of pilgrimage. Their deeds become glorified and they give the spiritual authority to the scriptures. Such a powerful statement. In fact, they say that it is these kind of devotees who actually give authority to the scriptures. Otherwise, the scriptures in themselves are just words. For example, what is Chaitanya Charitamrita? It is just a text. It is just a bunch of words. But the moment you say it belongs to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then that words become very authentic. The words have a lot of weight. You see, just like that. What is Bhagavad Gita? It is just a bunch of words thrown around. If somebody says it was written by some Baba Halwai, I don't think we would be spending 2 years regularly reading and trying to understand it. But Krishna said it. That gives authenticity. So they are saying such pure devotees, they are the ones who give sanctity and authority to the scriptures. Shri Krishna has described such a saintly people in the Bhagavad Gita also. You may remember this. Yastvatma ratireva syadatma tripascha manavah atmanyevacha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. Those who rejoice in the self, who are illumined and fully satisfied within the self, for them there is no duty. So Krishna is saying, such people who are self-realized and who are satisfied in the self, whatever they do is right. Everything they do becomes right and sanctified because they have already risen above all duties. Because they have already achieved the ultimate goal of self-realization. You know, it is like you tell your child that, hey, it's your exam, you have to go study, and your child is revolting. And the child is saying, but you are sitting in the sofa and watching TV. Why should I go and study? You know, then you have to explain that I've already done all the studies. You know, so once you finish all the studies, once you get graduation and then you get a job, you know, then you can also sit in the sofa and watch TV. You know, but till then you will have to pass all your exams. You know, just like that, people have already succeeded on the path of Bhakti Yoga, Ananya Bhakti, they have got it. Then they are above all of this. Now, even if they sit and watch TV, that is fine. But now we cannot compare with them and say, like, you know, they are doing it, why am I supposed to follow strict rules? Why am I supposed to do all of this? You know, that is the wrong way to look at it. Let's do one final shloka for today. Shloka 70 is probably the shortest shloka. Tanmaya.
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 Okay, short and sweet. Such devotees are absorbed in the Supreme and filled with the Supreme. It's a very important concept again, because Narad Ji is again reminding us that once you are full of God and once you are full of God's divine love, then there is no room for anything else, which includes your fragile ego. You know, precious, fragile ego. There is no room for that also, because now you are full of God, full of God's divine love. And once that happens, what happens? If you don't have room for ego, means the ego is gone, right? And what happens once the ego goes? You no longer have any false identities. You are freed from falsehood. Because it's the ego that is binding you to the Maya. It's the ego that is binding you to this body consciousness. I am a director. I am a counselor. I am a doctor. That is all that ego. You are none of that. Excuse me. You are just a temporary piece of Panchabhuta, which is loaned to you for a temporary period of time Can you control, can you tell your nails not to grow? Can you tell your stomach not to secrete digestive juices? What makes you say this body is yours? I mean, what is the definition of yours? What control do you have on it? The control you have is so superficial. More than 99% of what is happening, even in your own bodies, you have no control. So how can it be yours? It's not yours. It is just a piece of machinery made out of Panchabhuta that has been loaned to you for a period of time so that you can have some experiences and you can have this experience of God realization, which is the ultimate goal of that body. So in other words, you are supposed to understand that this whole body thing is a temporary arrangement and it is there for a purpose. The body is not the purpose. And what is preventing us from coming to that realization? It is that fragile, delicate ego. And how do you get rid of that ego? You cannot pull it out and throw it anywhere. That doesn't happen. So the only way to do it is fill yourself up with something divine. Fill yourself up with the love of God, and the ego will automatically have to go out. That is the tatparya behind Shri Krishna also saying replace. When we said replace, you have some bad thought, replace with the thought of God. Because eventually you are replacing everything with God, and eventually that is making you full of God and God consciousness. And when you are full of God consciousness, whatever is not God consciousness goes away. And that is how you reach the goal. Such a beautiful, practical way. So Shri Krishna said in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prabhadyate vasudevah sarvam iti sa mahatma su durlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. And such a great soul is very rare. What is Krishna saying actually in this verse? He is explaining the rarity of such a great soul who has attained true knowledge, meaningful knowledge. So Krishna says, after going through many cycles of birth and death, the person who possesses true wisdom and understanding, they will surrender to Krishna. In other words, surrendering to Krishna is not just a physical show. Krishna says, even this thought of I need to surrender to Krishna will only come after you have already gone through multiple births. It's the advanced stage of evolution. So surrendering is not something, so Krishna is saying even to surrender you need to have evolved spiritually. So such a great soul, Krishna is saying, is very rare. There are a lot of souls who do a lot of show, but genuinely from the heart, this feeling of surrender, Krishna says, is extremely rare. Why? Because Krishna says the spiritual growth is a long process. It's a long and arduous process. That is why what we always say, consistency. Consistency is the key. And Krishna says it actually takes multiple lifetimes. So in fact, we should all feel very privileged and very fortunate that we are even having this intent, because that means we have already been through multiple lifetimes and we are nearing our goal. So let us be happy about that and keep up the josh. Because Krishna is saying that is the indication of true knowledge. True knowledge and true wisdom is not that you know all the verses of the Vedas, or you can recite the 700 Shlokas of Bhagavad Gita with your eyes closed. They are all okay, but that is not true knowledge. Krishna says the true knowledge basically is the realization that my ultimate purpose is total surrender to God and God realization. If you know that, really know that, not theoretically, but if you are convinced, that is true knowledge. That is the purpose of all other knowledge. And then Krishna says, once you reach that stage, Ananya chintayanto mam, ye jana paripasite, then tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. You reach that stage, Krishna says, then you are my responsibility. Otherwise, what happens is, if we treat him as a merchant, he will behave like a merchant. Yasa bhava is anubhava. Okay? So Krishna, I will do Ekadashi, you grant me this wish. Oh, this is a big Ekadashi, so you take away some of my karmas. Krishna says, okay. You do good things, I will give you good things. You do bad things, I will give you bad results. I mean, you want me to be a merchant. Krishna says that is your wish. I'm whatever you want me to be. So what we actually have to get into is, that is why he said, Sulataji, that is why Krishna said, Moha Kalilam. He said, if you get into this merchant business, it's Moha Kalilam. So Narad Ji has said, how do we get out of the merchant business? We're not having expectations. We're not having any reasons. By just having love for the sake of love. You will realize it yourself. When you get into that mode, love becomes it will come naturally to you. Your scope of love will increase. It will come naturally to you. And then you will automatically have this realization that the true knowledge is this. This is all that matters. Nothing else matters. All that matters is this real knowledge that my ultimate purpose is God realization. And I just need to surrender to God and be full of God. And once you reach that stage, you are pretty much graduated, post-graduated, whatever you want to call. And Krishna says, then you become my responsibility. At that point, yoga kshemam vahamyaham. I will make sure you have whatever you need. So I hope this makes sense to all of you. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much once again, my wonderful satsang family. With that, we can close today's session. I will stop the recording.